right, so let's move on to etude number 2, which is our slow etude. And that is Ferling Etude number 5. I'm very excited that you will be playing this. It's one of my favorites, really beautifully written for the oboe. We're in a friendly key, G major. I wanted to mention that if you want some extra practice getting the high F sharp that you have to learn for Etude 1, you could consider practicing your G major scale going all the way up to high F sharp. Obviously not required, but you could consider doing that. We're in a 2/4 time signature. However, I wanted to point your attention over here. We have an 8th note click on the metronome, 68 to 76 for the recommended performance tempo. So the metronome will be clicking 4 times. However, this should still feel like it's in 2. So it's going to be in a subdivided 2. That's important. Otherwise, it can drag and really slow down, and that makes breathing a lot more difficult in this etude. Same recommendations, scales, and arpeggios as I made for the first etude. And again, all of that you can find on the practice handout that I've created that you can get from the QR code. The unique component for this etude is that we have 9 trills in the etude, lots of trills. So if you have not done a lot of trilling, or if you feel uncomfortable, we are going to overcome that this year. All right, again, I've taken the time to just point out the places where we have not only your major scale, but also your chromatic scale in here as well. And I did want to mention on the handout that I included the relative minor key. That just means the scales, the minor scales that have the same key signature, because we do venture into minor in the middle here. So it's important to notice that we have a different key here. Okay. Here are the arpeggios, and again, all of them are listed on the handout so that you can isolate those and practice them separately. All right, things to pay attention to here. There are just a couple of spots where we have some faster rhythms. These spots might be easy for you, but if you find that you're playing along and when you get to these faster rhythms, they're causing you to stumble, I would recommend starting with those and isolating them, and then once you get them to the tempo that you want to practice the etude at, then you can go back and put them in context. Reminders. Measure 15 and measure 34 both have a maybe less common articulation. The notes have staccatos with a slur over the top, and that can be confusing sometimes. So the staccatos are indicative of you should be articulating those notes, whereas the slur is saying that they should be connected. So the interpretation would be a legato articulation, but you do need to articulate the notes that have the staccatos under the slur. Remember that in measure 22, there's an A sharp that will carry over to the A grace note that comes after that. That grace note will be an A sharp as well. And then in measure 33, we have a D sharp accidental, and the very next note is a D grace note. That is also a D sharp, and you will need to re-articulate it because even though they're under the slur, we need to hear that there are 2 notes there. Here are all your trill fingerings. On the oboe, we're really fortunate that we can do trills with moving just 1 finger. So if you've never seen a trill fingering chart, this is what they look like. You put down your fingers on all of the keys that are colored in, and then the key that is the lighter color, the gray, that's the key that you're going to be moving, the finger you're going to be moving in order to create the trill. So measure 22 is the one that I think you'll be least familiar with. We have an A sharp to a B natural trill. In order to do that, when you finger the A sharp, you need to add this pinky key, the G sharp key. What that's going to do is it's going to hold the A key down so that when we're trilling, instead of the key opening and closing with your finger, we're just going to be opening and closing the hole that's in the key, and that's in order to get that interval in tune. So if that isn't, when you press the pinky key down, if that doesn't hold the A key down, your oboe is probably out of adjustment, and you should ask your teacher about that. There is a trill exercise on the handout. It's basically just practicing these fingerings at various rhythms, right? Put the metronome on and practice them at speeds, or at the same speed, but doing different rhythms so that you can start to gain more control over your fingers. Spend a few minutes each day doing that. All right. Now it's time that we listen to the recording. So here is my performance of Ferling Etude number 5.